Hello, everyone. I'm gonna wait still 1 more minute for other people to also drop in, and then we are going to start. All right, I think that's good enough of a wait. So, hello everyone, and welcome back to the second Train the Trainer session of Water4All. My name is Roxania Zompana, and I am a project officer at Water Alliance. We organize the masterclasses on behalf of Water4All. For those of you who don't know, Water4All is European project with the aim of a waterproof future for all. And one of those pillars are entrepreneurship. And sometimes entrepreneurship need a little help, little boost for their journey. And hence we need the need for also great trainers, which I am sure there are a couple in the call. So today the topic that we're going to talk about is market solution fit, which is one of the topics that is very important for all entrepreneurs to gather. And for this purpose, we are going to have an entrepreneur, Tim Norton from Silent Tea Solution, talk about his experience with market solution fit and the support he got in his journey, and what maybe he would have liked to see more of, and what helped, and also how he himself did the market solution fit, and how the awards, the Global Water Awards, also helped him on his journey. And then we are going to go to GWR to talk about their Global Water Award and how that relates to market solution fit. So that's the program that we are going to talk about this session. In the end, we are going to have a workshop on different Global Water Awards, the different Global Water Awards that exist, not to be mistaken with the Global Award. So yeah, for now, one more thing, the session is recorded, and it's scheduled to be 2 hours, but I expect it to be around 1 to 1.5 hours. And now I will give the floor to Tim Norton, the technical director and founder of Silent Tea Solution. Thank you for joining us, and please have the floor.
Thanks, Roxanne. 1 second, let me just share. Can you... Oh God, I'm sharing the wrong screen, aren't I? Here we go. How do I change? Good start, this, isn't it? Can everybody see that okay?
All good. And also, if you have any question, put it on the chat and I will ask Tim. I will moderate it. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Roxanne. So as Roxanne said, my name's Tim Norton, Technical Director and founder of Salinity Solutions. And I got asked by GWI and Water4All to come just share some of my experiences because I set Salinity up 5 years ago and we've been on an amazing journey. There's some nuances within the water sector that make commercializing technologies challenging, but there's also a lot of opportunity here. So I'm going to talk for about 15. I'm going to try and keep it to about 15 minutes. So there's 5 minutes at the end for Q&A about some of the nuances within the water sector, some of the things that went really well for us, and some of the things that were kind of challenging that left us a bit exposed. I think one of the reasons that I got asked to talk today is because we won Breakthrough Technology Company of the Year this year at the Global Water Summit in Paris, which for a 5-year-old business was an absolutely fantastic recognition. I'm talking a little bit more about it as we go through, but the opportunity that GWI provided for us to get on that platform and the fact it's voted for by the industry is a huge recognition. So, well, first off, rewind a bit to before we set the business up. What we have is a high efficiency, high recovery method of reverse osmosis, which some people in the room might be familiar with reverse osmosis technology. But we developed it initially between Aston University and the University of Birmingham. And I started in my journey with it as a volunteer in 2016. When I got on board with the team, we thought that we were going to be solving lots of humanitarian aid issues with the technology, but looking at the kind of commercial potential of humanitarian aid, and I'm sure a lot of people in the room understand that it's very hard to build a business case around that proposition. So we started to look at the proposition with what's called the iCure journey. It's something that the UK government offer. In fact, the UK government, they're fantastic at providing funding and support for early stage technologies to kind of explore the commercial potential. But one thing in the UK is we need, or we could do with a little bit more support on the venture capitalist side. But basically, this program that I got on was 6 months. The first 3 months were customer discovery. So you go out with your proposition of what your technology is good at. You speak to companies that might look at adopting it. This was 3 months of just flying around the world for me, going to as many conferences as I could. And then provided you get through that, the next 3 months are high level business skills. I mean, anything that your basic entrepreneurial program will teach you, bit of funding, bit of business models, team structure, but without dwelling too much on that because it's quite generic. We left the program with 300 grand grant to set the business up. Now that was the first day of lockdown in the UK. So there was 300 grand. But to get that 300 grand released, I needed to go and raise another 100 grand of investment, which during COVID was quite a challenge, but I did manage to do it right at the end. So I think it was the 11th month I connected with some investors. But one of the things that I was really looking for from the investors wasn't just capital. I was looking for investors that would provide support to Salinity in terms of helping us get some of the key skills involved. So find people that were experienced to accelerate the progress. I was very aware at the time, I was the only person coming out of the university of my research group that was going to be involved in the business. So it's not the case now. I've got quite a lot of that research teams moved over, but I wanted to make sure that we had core elements of the business covered with experienced people. So spent the first 6 months finding a team of people that could cover marketing, fundraising, and commercial support. And I think that's been an absolute blessing for Salinity. We've still got the same team driving us forward. And while the team was quite expensive because they were experienced, we set a structure of hub and spoke to our business model. So we only brought in on a PAYE system the elements of the business that were really needed. Everything else we outsourced, and it was just powered by the hour. One of the things that I think really set us apart from other startups within this sector is the marketing that we've done, and it's really not to be underestimated. I think there's a lot of companies, particularly within the water sector, that could push their marketing more. There was very early on, there was a defining moment where our marketing director, Jim, said, right, I'm going to make this technology famous. And he set out with a PR campaign. He got a PR specialist involved. And over the course of the next year, we got written about in 60 articles. We went on podcasts. We were on the news. We wrote case studies. We won awards. We went to speak at conferences. And what that stimulated was from 2021, all of our sales inquiries were inbound. And I think everyone I've spoken to that set up businesses in any sector, the fact that all of our sales inquiries have been inbound is, well, it's just it's a unique position to be in as a startup. But, and in fact, when I was writing these slides, it was something I was thinking maybe GWI can help with this. Before we had all those inbound sales, we didn't really have a clear go-to-market strategy. We understood where our value lied, what kind of things we should be solving and what problems we should be looking at with our customers. But actually identifying the customers that had those challenges was really hard because the industry is very conservative and the customers don't really publicize the challenges. But once we got this kind of flurry of inbound inquiries, we managed to kind of shape our go-to-market strategy with where our product could deliver value, but where it could deliver value now. And that's really what we doubled down on, was how we can roll this technology out with the product we have today that we can start selling, and the problems within the market where it's going to deliver the most value. There's a bit more about that in a couple of slides, but the marketing also stimulated the fundraising for us as well. We did a huge amount of crowdfunding, which for a business like ours is quite odd. But the reason we were successful was because we had a really clear message to go out to the crowd with. And then we've had repeat funding from SQM, which is one of our major shareholders. The marketing really helped with that. And we've won a series of awards. Now, obviously the most significant award that we've won recently is the Breakthrough Technology Company of the Year. But the awards, they're really good for, they're really good for team morale. They're really good for all stakeholders. It's nice to have a big shiny cabinet in the office. It makes everyone feel good. And it's really good for your customers as well. Really good for them to stick their hand up and say, look, this is the company I'm championing. I'm sure that this is a problem across all sectors, but fundraising is a challenge. Companies don't really like to, or VC funds don't really look at water and think, right, that's an attractive opportunity. The returns are there, but they're slow, and it's a really complex sector, which is why we quite quickly went to crowdfunding. After our initial grant had run out, we looked at the evidence that we had and thought, right, you know what? We don't actually have the evidence required to go to a venture fund. But with the clear messaging, we took a punt on our crowdfunding. The first time we went out, we got asked for 400 grand, we got 700. Second time we went for 400 grand, we got 750. And we've now done four or five rounds of crowdfunding. We've raised over 2 million. And we've got upwards of 2,000 shareholders. which has given us a real foothold and a real opportunity when it comes to raising venture investment, because each time we've needed to raise investment from a VC, we've gone to our crowd and said, right, look, we're trying to negotiate our next round of investment, but we could do with a little bit more time to make sure we secure the share price that for you. And each time our crowd stuck up a load of money and given us that time to negotiate properly. It's amazing to have 2,000 individuals out there championing you. And when we put things out on LinkedIn, we know the crowd's watching us. And we've had repeat investment from the University of Birmingham. And now our focus, we are talking to VCs, but we've had some real success with high net worth individuals, which is much more about who you know than the VC funds. It's quite a different way of raising money. Things can move a lot quicker and it can come with less strings, but it is less obvious to get hold of your VC, high net worths. I touched on it before, our go-to-market strategy, but this was something that left us quite exposed in the early days. Everyone says, and it's true, you need to focus on your initial customers when you're starting out. But it's a bit of a kind of cautionary tale. We worked with a first company called Cornish Lithium for our first trial, and at the end of the trial, they basically they didn't invest in the scale up of our technology. In retrospect, it was obvious they would have bought a product for us, but they were investment funded themselves, and they were never going to be able to invest in the development of another technology. But when Cornish Lithium dropped away, we just started talking to Suez, who's a major customer of ours now. But we were kind of a year into the business with no real customer base and the need to still raise more investment. That's when Jim put his marketing campaign in place, which was absolutely fantastic, but it took about 9 months for the sales inquiries to come through. So it was a bit of a punt on the marketing, quite a lot of money going out on PR and the campaign, and just hoping that the dominoes are going to start falling, which they did. But what we found in that time was really important just to have a clear message to go out with. We went out with a proposition that we save half the energy, which is true, but it's not necessarily the value that we bring to most of our customers. Our value actually lies in mainly the waste volume reduction, but it's different for everyone. And now, 5 years in, this is a bit of an overview of who we're working with. We've got a huge opportunity in India at the moment because of regulations out there. It says Bosch on the board, but what we've actually done is we've set up a completely different business unit as a joint venture in collaboration with another company, where our customers are the likes of Bosch and Honda and Tata and Mahindra, and they've got a pipeline that goes well into 2027. It's really interesting though, within this sector, very conservative and can be very slow moving, but it can also move really quickly. We didn't have India on our radar 2 years ago, and now we've set up a whole separate business unit just to tackle the problems out there because of the regulations that came in. We're then working in South America for lithium mining. We're working in municipal water reuse with Suez in France. We're working with a company that's similar to Suez in the UK for processed water. In fact, if any of you saw the article that we put out with GWI with our case study, we've done a case study on the application that we're doing in processed water because we can remove upstream technologies. And then we've got a plethora of other opportunities that we're working on. We're working with Toshiba, we're working with some food and beverage manufacturers that you'll be very familiar with. But that's the summary, really. They're the key points. Hopefully there's some questions, but just to wrap up, the things that I think really important to drive home is get a simple story, get it out there, make sure you're being loud about what you can do and get written about in the right places. I think one of the things that set us apart was not thinking I could do it all myself. We brought in some real experts that have driven this company forward and driven it a lot quicker than we otherwise would have done. Get under the skin of the value of your technology. Don't assume that it's delivering the value that you think it is. Make sure you work with the customer to understand their kind of cost structure. Things move to the right. That was the biggest learning curve for us, and it still happens to be. Everything moves really slowly. Have a backup, and of course, it's the same for every business. But we really do have an absolutely phenomenal team behind this. That not only are they dedicated and really smart, but they've got really similar values. Everyone gets along, and I think that's really important. Hope that was interesting. I'm just trying to move on to the last slide here. Fab, thank you. I can't see the chat. Should I? I'll just stop sharing my screen because I can't actually see anyone now.
Yeah, thank you very much. If anybody has a question, they can raise their hand and let us know. Till then, I would like to ask myself a question, but you talked a bit about VCs, etc. How about other partners in the ecosystem? For example, incubators, clusters. How did that help you with fitting the market, if at all, and maybe what you would have liked to see more?
That's a really interesting question. So in terms of partners, we didn't really use any incubators. In the early days, we got some grant funding that got us off the ground, which was absolutely fantastic. But we kind of steered away from incubators and accelerators because we wanted to make sure that we were focusing the business on applications that the customers would actually fund. And we didn't think, if we thought very strongly that if the customer wasn't going to put their hands in their pocket for the value we can deliver, it's probably not the right thing. There is definitely good funding out there. We've just got onto a partnership program with one of the companies that's like the Suez's and the Veolias of this world. But the reason that we went with that is because it's really targeted. We actually pushed it away a few times and we got them to sell to us, really, saying that they wanted the technology. And without them having done that, we wouldn't have had the confidence that it was going to deliver returns at the end of the program. We did harness some grant funding through the University of Birmingham for our premises where we are now. We got a year's free rent for our facilities. But apart from that, this is the first kind of incubator that we've been on and not had any grant funding since the first days, apart from for our offices.
Okay, very interesting. And so you would say then the main reason was that you were just more focused on finding your early customers, and you did not think that the incubators would help you in that direction?
I think that was the ethos within the team. Yeah, I think a lot of the incubators can be focused on putting the skills in the business or developing the people in the business to turn them into understand the markets that's ahead of them, the complexities of industry. But we invested heavily in the early days in our team, and we brought on people that were really experienced. It did cost more than most startups spend on their executives, but it's yielded returns, absolutely has. I mean, our management team has probably over 100 years of experience. I'm by far the youngest director.
All right. Thank you. Any questions from the participants? No, I don't hear any questions. So I will ask one last question. So when was the moment you went from early customers, evangelists, to really fitting your solution to the market and being like, yeah, this is kind of the best solution available, and people really wanted it, like customers recognize it as one of the best solution available and coming to you as well for it?
I, th I think it was when we started delivering systems into India. So we've always known that zero liquid discharge was where we were going to yield the biggest value. And that's because of the impact on the technologies we have downstream of ours. It took a little bit of product development for us to get there, and we didn't really want to invest in the product development. So our initial customers weren't in that space, but as soon as there was the regulations in India and the pull in that direction, I think that's when we really started to kind of find a foothold.
Yeah, very interesting indeed. Well, thank you very much for your time. And yeah, it was a very interesting presentation. Thank you. Now we are gonna move to our next presentation, and that is with GWI. You can see our presenter, Emma and Charlie. They have the same background as me. And Emma is the organizer of the Global Water Summit, so she knows also all about it. And so they are going to talk about the Global Water Awards. And yeah, I will just give you the floor and go ahead and tell us a bit about your program.
Thanks very much, Roxanne. Yes. Hi, everyone. Yeah, as Roxanne said, I'm Emma. I'm the program manager for the Global Water Summit, and part of that is the Global Water Awards. I'm joined here with Charlie, who is our head of water technology at Global Water Intelligence. And I'm just going to quickly share my presentation. 2 moments. Okay. Apologies, my laptop always takes about 5 minutes to load anything. Perfect. Okay, and then I'll just share. Lovely. Hopefully I can just make that bigger. Oh. Okay. Apologies. Okay. Yes. So yeah, we are the Global Water Awards, and we are a international platform for water industry professionals, essentially designed to recognize and promote groundbreaking achievements across the entire global water industry. So we operate from November each year until May with our Global Water Awards ceremony. The awards are, of course, a GWI initiative, And just some background for those of you who don't know, GWI is an events and publishing company that provides market intelligence and insights for the water industry. And so our GWI analysts, such as Charlie, are responsible for reviewing our nominations as they come in and producing a shortlist. The shortlist is then voted on by our GWI community, and then the winners are announced at the Global Water Awards ceremony. And this year it's on the 19th of May in Madrid. The awards is made up of 15 categories. We have categories all the way across the industry, so from water, wastewater, and technology to desalination as well. And here I've just signpost 4 of our technology-based categories, of course, honing in on the second category, which is the Breakthrough Technology Company of the Year. And this category in particular, as Tim mentioned, is geared towards startups and early stage technology companies. So to be eligible for this category in 2026, a startup must have reached their commercial operation in 2025. So it is something that is a bit more suitable for those later stage startups. So what is the purpose of the awards? Well, I personally like to think of it as the PR tool that every young company should be leveraging. So of course, Tim talked about the marketing journey that startups go through, and it is a hurdle that everyone faces. So yeah, how do you build credibility in an industry when you don't have this historical data, market share, or customer base to back yourself up? So through the awards, we aim to even out that playing field. So there's no fee for submitting. So this means that our shortlisted startups aren't restricted by any marketing or advertising budgets. And through the awards, we tell your story. So it essentially allows our startups to reach out to potential investors without, the cold pitch themselves. So at GWI, we maintain editorial integrity over the shortlist. So this means that each shortlisted nomination, as I mentioned before, is chosen by our editorial team at GWI, and then each shortlisted nomination is provided with a promotional feature on the Global Water Awards website and in our GWI newsletter. And this is written by one of our editors. So, for example, Charlie will review our submissions and write up some shortlisted editorial features for those that are shortlisted. And I'll pass over to Charlie later, who will give you a bit more insight into the nuances of what goes into making a good application for the breakthrough category. So these shortlisted companies are then promoted around the GWI network. And the GWI network is made of over 40,000 readers. So we have a wide reach. And this is generally made up of investors, suppliers, utilities, and regulators. So we do reach across the whole value chain and spectrum of the industry. But most importantly, you earn that credibility organically. So the awards is community driven. So it means that, though GWI is heavily involved in the shortlisting period, we don't get the final say on who wins. And the winners are voted for by our GWI readers. So, this way you're gaining, by winning the awards, you're gaining serious approval and trust directly from your future stakeholders and customers. And so, yeah, just to give you a quick testimonial. This is from Zwitterco, who won our Breakthrough Technology Award in 2023. And they very kindly told us a little bit about the success that they've achieved through the awards. So, you know, this is really testament to the impact that the awards can generate on that global scale. You know, since winning this award in 2023, Zwitterco has been able to validate that impact that their technology can have, which, you know, gives them the credibility that they need to reach out to new markets. And beyond this, you know, we also take the awards out into the real world, obviously through our ceremony and also the Global Water Summit. So yeah, our program culminates in the ceremony, which takes place on the first day of the Global Water Summit, which is our wider C-suite networking conference. So we look at having around 1,200 senior executives each year who actually come over to the event in real life and you know, connect with the people they want to meet. So we see the awards as helping startups build the right community around them. And our biggest attendees at the conference, just to show you this breakdown here, are those in the technology equipment provider side and the municipal side. Startups can qualify for discounted rates to come along to the conference as well. So we really are looking to give them the chance to connect in person with those who have directly voted for them to win the award. So you're actually, you know, connecting with potential customers and those who are, you know, going to bring the right deals to the foreground. So that is a little bit about the process. I will just highlight that at the Global Water Summit this year, we're looking to create a platform for startups to connect during the summit. This is called our GWI Growth Accelerator Program. And I will get Roxanne to share a few links after the masterclass if you're interested. And just to round off on my portion of the presentation, and just to share our key dates with you. So we're currently open for nominations until the end of February. And you can submit your nominations for free via our platform on our website. And in March, we release our shortlist. And sorry, Charlie, I've just spoiled the beginning of your slides. So yeah, oops, my laptop is having a moment. Yes, and then our voting period begins from the end of March to the end of April. And then our winners are, of course, announced at the Global Water Summit in Madrid this year in May. So that is just a bit about the process. I will just hand over to Charlie to tell you a bit more about the breakthrough category in detail. Charlie, would you like me to just continue flicking through the slides for you?
Yeah, yes, please. Well, I've only got one
Great.
slide, so
Yeah.
it shouldn't be too taxing. Yeah, trying to find time to put some stuff together, but anyway, ended up with this. Happy to be part of this masterclass today. Yes, as already mentioned, I am the head of water technology at GWI, so basically leading our coverage. I've been doing that for 8 or 9 years now, and working on the awards pretty much all of that time. So focusing on the Breakthrough Technology Company of the Year, we introduced it in 2016, so it's about 10 years old, and so 40 lucky companies have been nominated, and 10 have, I guess, been the overall winners, and 10 have won a distinction, and then the rest are were nominated, and for whatever reason, the audience was less taken with them. It was actually the voters, but so I've categorized them in different ways. I was trying to look for all sorts of there are plenty of ways you can slice and dice things in the water industry, but I just kept it simple in the end. And I'll touch on some of these categories in a bit, but just to kind of start with the essentials for how you can be considered for this award. As I guess Emma already mentioned, commercial traction is key. So commercial references, kind of proper references, that demonstrate that the solution is credible and someone wants to buy it, for a full scale installation. So that's always kind of the first rule. So this is all, I guess, sort of TRL 8 or 9 type levels in terms of technology readiness levels. Also, if it's made inroads into several different end markets, whether that's several different different geographies for the utility sector, or maybe a couple of different industrial type customers, then that always helps. Things like innovative business models to either better secure that revenue or help the customer with its costs are always can go a long way. But there's not really any, I can't sort of just give you a list of these are all the things we look for. It's above all, really, what we're looking for is companies that are really moving the needle with inspirational stories, projects, etc. So, I think a lot of companies in the water industry that they can point to their solutions and go, oh yes, we're saving you, some sort of single-digit percentage on energy or chemicals or whatever it might be. I mean, okay, that's fine, but hundreds of other companies are doing that, and so the good news for the water industry is that there's a lot more kind of bankable startups out there. But I suppose the bad news is there's more kind of competition to kind of rise to the top in all of that. So so what really stands out for us is a company is bringing something that perhaps is not accessible before, or has got the sector thinking about different ways of doing things. Now, while that in this we know this is a conservative industry, and so you also need to kind of understand how the sort of procurement and sales cycles are going to work. I think really, thinking big is always helpful. And coming back to the market solution fit, that often comes about from somebody in the team who has lived the problem that you're trying to solve. So in recent years, I've certainly observed quite a lot of startups that where a member of the C-suite or one of their senior advisors or whatever has been in the water sector, maybe from in any utility, in some industrial end user that has kind of lived a problem in their water operations, and so they know exactly the problem that needs to be solved, and where the buy-in would come from the customer. And they also know how the sales cycles work, so help set up the business in the best way to survive those potentially long sales cycles that are particularly prevalent in the water utility sector. The industrial sector is a bit more forgiving, but that is kind of a really big. If you're trying to conquer this market, then finding people who have lived a problem, then you're kind of that gets you ahead. So one example I'll pick out, and it didn't end up winning, but there's a company called Transcend which does generative design. So that's in sort of the top of the slide here, and sort of in the middle. And that's led by a couple of guys who've been in the industry for quite a long time, guys called Ari Revitz and Adam Tank, and Transcend uses generative design to kind of speed up design of assets, wastewater treatment plants, and gives people options of what technology to use, much quicker. You can sort of run all sorts of different, you just plug in some parameters and whatever, and you sort of plug it in, and it's really helping the water sector meet these challenges that it's facing of climate change, and whatever else. So, and those guys are going really well at the moment. So a lot of companies on the screen here also contribute to mention the battle around climate change. I think climate adaptation is really where water is playing. There is a little bit on the climate mitigation side. So, the water industry has roughly 2% of global emissions, global greenhouse gas emissions. So, there's some work we can do there, but most of the play for water is climate adaptation. And helping the sector meet the changing water cycle as well, because of course, the water cycle is the way that climate change manifests itself. So more severe droughts, more severe flooding, etc., etc. You've probably heard that sort of thing before. So we look at all these previous winners. You'll see in the bottom left here, quite a big contingent is sort of on that desal and reuse side of things, and I guess several of our victorious companies have come from there, and also in the membrane side of things as well. And I don't think this is a story where I don't do a membrane, so I don't have a chance of winning. It's I think that these it's much more to do with advancing our or better ensuring water security in the future, and solutions related to desalination and reuse play a big part of that. Although solutions that markedly make technology, for example, leak prevention or detection, more cost effective, accessible, etc., are always also certainly considered. So these sort of too much and too little water things are only ever going to grow, and that is thinking quite big, I know, but it's it's easy to kind of pin a story on that. And one thing I noticed about last year's nominees in particular, and so these were, I've put years on here, so that was obviously Salinity, who you've heard from, Membrion, which does a clever membrane solution aimed at industrial wastewater, Vortec Water Solutions, which has an interesting aeration solution, and Orb, which is sort of taking on like real-time water quality monitoring. And all of these were kind of taking water technology to the next level in different ways. So, for example, Salinity, I don't think Tim didn't talk too much about the technology, but their kind of batch RO system, batch reverse osmosis, is the sort of the next system innovation in RO, and he mentioned things like saving a lot of energy, reducing waste streams, and so on. And so RO has kind of evolved from sort of standard seawater systems, which have been going for many years, to things like semi-batch RO. I don't know if anyone here is familiar with companies like Desalitech out of Israel, and then going into this kind of batch reverse osmosis. I won't go into what that means, we have out of time, but so it's sort of taking that the sector forward, and they've sort of proven that they've been able to commercialize this technology. So Membrion, which won distinction last year, that's the story around that is taking membranes to wastewater streams where membranes couldn't even really operate before because of fouling or just too sort of harsh wastewaters. And so these industrial customers had to quite often truck this waste a long way to sort of deal with it elsewhere. But what Membrion, and also I'll mention the company Zwitico, where we saw the testimonial from earlier, they've also got a membrane that helps combat organic fouling. But what it does is it really takes membranes to markets where you either have to truck it or you have to install some sort of expensive evaporator, and so it's kind of really bringing those costs down for the customer. Orb, that's in the realm of kind of microbiological monitoring, trying to take that kind of into more real time, and that's probably more sort of the next horizon for real-time water quality monitoring is on that kind of microbiological side of things. So they're getting traction with some utilities and also big partners like Suez. And then lastly, Vortec they're out of Ireland. They have a really kind of novel way of you're taking out blowers and diffusers for aerating wastewater tanks, and you're using this sort of power of vortex. So you sort of stick something on the top of the tank instead, and so it's much easier installation. There's obviously the energy and carbon benefits, but it's also just kind of also a safety type thing where you don't have to send people into a tank to inspect diffusers at the bottom of the tank. So there's all sorts of different ways really that that companies, how they feel like the impact on the sector. And really, I suppose, kind of the headline here is that overall the sector really needs storytellers on so many levels, and understanding how you can solve end users' problems is key to that. And founders of successful companies have always had often thousands of conversations with end customers to understand what they need, and then you can straight away start to talk their language. And I think it's the water industry needs to come into, there's a lot of pressure on it from the out. People have very it's quite often negative views of it, particularly I'm based in the UK. You see, these water companies just, they're just polluting relentlessly, all these sewer overflows and stuff. So we need to kind of grab the initiative for that and say, well, climate change, the water industry has such a huge role to play. I think entrepreneurs in the sector also have a big role to play in that, and they might bring lessons from other sectors as well, for example. And I'll sign off by just saying that there is a lot of money waiting to come into the sector. We've recently run our own analysis, and 2025 saw over $1 billion coming in terms of sort of venture capital and a growth capital. And that's the second year in a row that it's attracted over $1 billion. I mean, probably just a few years ago, it was in the realm of sort of 450 million. So it's a really good time to be in. There's money waiting to be put to work. There's really good specialized water VC investors, who really know what they're doing. There was a sort of 15 years ago, a kind of spate of investors came in and they didn't really know what the sector was all about, and they got impatient and didn't really realize that they weren't going to get a return on their money within 2 years, because water's a bit different to everything else. So, but now we know you've got sort of proper serious people involved. So I'll leave it there. Hopefully that was helpful, and happy to answer any questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much. If there's any question, of course, it can be shared through the chat, or you can just unmute yourself and ask the questions. Are there any questions?
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. Yeah, we'll have a question, and it will be, so you are both considering hardware and software solutions, both, and the main focus will be water security, but that will be like the guideline.
Yeah, definitely hardware and software. We've had a few. I can't remember. I think there are a few on my list there of software companies that really go for like plant optimization or monitoring the network. Or consider it. And it's also aimed at like municipal and industrial water more than, for example, like point of use or consumer or like agriculture. We don't deal with that too much. It's more the municipal and industrial water sectors.
Just out of curiosity, because
Sure.
my background is also a little bit more on water policy and not that much in technology, although I'm transiting. Do you have any solution that merges both like technological solution with policy issues? Because I feel that in the water sector, there's like a big gap between the policy side and then the technical side. And you can see that
I mean,
even though we constantly talk about bridging silos and so on.
Yeah, I guess a lot of our the companies are they don't operate in a vacuum, but they're probably quite often they might be, for example, like regulation driven or something as well, but it's more like solving problems for the that the end users immediately have.
Any other questions? So I will ask 1 or 2 questions as well. So the first one being for Charlie. So you said that last year you saw the technologies were a bit like more next level. Have you seen like through the year a trend of like the companies going a certain direction or?
That's a good question. Let me just yeah, I was going to look at this for yeah, I mean a lot of them have been around, you know, these advancements in, yeah, particularly things like desalination and reuse because of that, yeah, to scarcity, kind of, you know, overarching narrative, and the companies have normally, you know, often been, so, you know, for example, like one other winner was like Aqua Membranes, which that produces membrane spacers by doing 3D printing. So it just helps it, I don't know, I don't want to go into it too much, but it just sort of helps the kind of the form of the membrane, and which makes it more kind of energy efficient and sort of the flux and things like that. But yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I probably have to look back a bit further on that, but you know, I think yeah, overall we are looking at just how is it taking the sector further, or, you know, real kind of material gains in different areas, you know, whether it's energy reduction or.
Okay, so more on resource recovery you see more often. Yeah.
Yeah, or I suppose also again, actually another big theme is just like doing more with less. So that, I guess that's where like digital companies come in. So again, if they are really, you know, helping end users get the most out of their assets, or yeah, so what else have we got on here? I mean, yeah, that's quite often a big deal as well.
Yeah. And yeah, so more on the technical aspects of the Global Water Summit and the Global Water Awards. How many people usually sign up every year? How many startups, sorry?
That's a great question. So when you say sign up, do you mean how many people submit a nomination to the startup category?
I meant more at the Global Summit itself, but
Oh,
also
okay. Yes. Yeah. So at the summit, so this is an area that we're looking to grow more. But usually we have a good proportion of startups come along. I'd say, yeah, usually 5 to 10% of our demographic. But this is something that we're really pushing this year. So we are looking to increase that, you know, considering that a big demographic is investors for us, and the end user. We, you know, more critically than ever, need to connect these people with those that are bringing in the breakthrough solutions to the market. Our theme for the Global Water Summit this year is delivering the water transition. So we really are looking at, on the technology side, which solutions are ready to be deployed now. And, you know, in critical moments of crisis, like especially for utilities, you know, they need solutions that can be deployed instantly and flexibly, you know, like with the changing environment. So yeah, this is really something that we're building on this year, and really excited to hopefully have a great contingent at our accelerator workshop on day 0. Yeah, Roxanne, you could maybe circulate a little bit more information about that afterwards if people are interested.
Yeah, for sure. And maybe that's a bit putting you on the spot, but would you see yourself collaborate with an incubator or / accelerator for the whole startup part, or?
We're definitely looking into the idea of collaboration, and we have a few accelerators that we're talking to at the moment, who will hopefully come and speak on this workshop. We have sponsors every year as well that put backing behind our sessions and our agenda, and that really raises the credibility of what we're talking about. But yeah, I can't reveal exactly who is speaking just yet, but we are putting out a very exciting marketing campaign very, very soon to release some of our speakers. And there, I think, if you're familiar with the accelerator incubator space, you'll probably see some familiar faces there.
All right, great. Well, thank you very much for the presentation. Okay, we have one more question. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Roxana, that we're talking about the Global Water Summit. I wanted to ask you, Emma, if you provide any kind of scholarship or sponsorship or anything for youth or for young entrepreneurs and so on.
We don't provide scholarships per se, but we do provide discounts, and this generally depends on the qualification of on the startup side of the company or the individual. So we kind of really treat it on a case by case basis, but we're really committed to access and facilitating attendance where we can.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And so now we'll stop the recording. And we're going to have a 5-minute pause and then start the workshop. So I see you all in 5 minutes. Yeah, thank you.